teachers, parents, mom, dad.
This is an open letter to my doctor, my nurse, airline ticket person,
person who answers the phone, dog walker,
guidance counselor,
crossing guard,
security guard,
street sweeper,
my waitress,
delivery driver,
fireman,
people at the next table,
bank teller,
librarian,
handyman,
bartender, gardener,
police officer,
babysitter,
hotel cleaner,
garbage man,
and everyone I see every day. Child trafficking is everywhere, and it's right here, in this place, on our streets, and in homes in this very neighborhood.
If we team up, learn the signs, and pay attention, we can save our kids.
It's not just poor kids, or girls, or minorities, or LGBTQ. One kid at a time.
one kid at a time,
One kid at a time.
one kid at a time.
one kid at a time, one kid at a time.
one kid at a time.
Let's teach the world the signs, so we can all know to say no. Learn the signs to look for and how to help at notosayno.com. If you suspect a child is the victim of trafficking, call 1-800-540-4000 for assistance.
All of Crest felt like family. All of Crest truly wanted you to become the best person that you can be. It was more than just a care program or a program to help people. It was relationships that helped me grow.
Ran into the opportunity of Olive Crest. And that's when everything started to turn around. Thanks to Olive Crest, I was now not struggling to eat. I had a nice place to live. I had good transportation. I had a great education to come through. And I walked out with college not only debt-free, but with a lot more money in my bank.
Today, I still have Olive Crest in my life. They've been a huge support and a big reason why I've been able to grow into the woman I'm becoming today. Thank you, Olive Crest, so much for helping me and supporting me.
You know, Olive Crest, I am incredibly grateful for you guys. And I want to let everybody who supports them know that your contribution does work, because it gave me something that I never had before, a chance.
Well, hello. I am your host, Clifford Wright, right here on BeInspired Today. And I have two fantastic assignment and mission women that are here to help you and I and our community to hold on to positive expectations. We have Adela Estrada. She is the Los Angeles County Dream Program administrator. She received her master's degree at Columbia University in developmental psychology. And by the way, my daughter lives in New York, right down the hill from Columbia University. And our family actually just took family pictures on their campus. Yeah, such a beautiful campus. We just took family pictures there just this summer. So I really love that campus. And so with that, Ms. Estrada, she is part of the DREAM program and partnering with the faith-based community. And that's so exciting as well. And then we have Ms. Tina Chang, and she is the regional program director for Olive Crest. And the two of them are collaborating on what I believe is one of the most, if not the most important assignments that any of us can have, which is to save our youth and endangered families from sex trafficking and labor trafficking and all of those things that go along with this diabolical plan of the enemy. So welcome to Be Inspired Today, Estrada, Mrs. Estrada, and Tina. Thank you for being here. And so, Adela, I'd like for you to start. What motivated you? You said about 26 years ago, you really got involved in this work. What motivated you to get involved in this work?
Well, thank you for having us, Pastor Wright. It's a real pleasure to be here. And I look forward to having an important conversation because sex trafficking, human trafficking of children and families is a growing problem that is often unseen and misunderstood. So I'm happy to be sharing some information with the hopes that we prevent children from becoming victims of child trafficking in the first place. And yes, I started my work working with children and families that have experienced various forms of trauma in their lives, whether it be abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. And now I focus on primarily child trafficking. That's really been a devastating, impact to children, youth, and families in our community, particularly in LA County, which is one of the top 3 areas in California impacted by child trafficking. So it's real important that we get this information out there to parents, children, youth, schools, and the communities in which our children and families live, because the impact of it is devastating. And so I started the work in child welfare because, growing up when I was little, I had, I looked up to certain people in the community, and I learned about, Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and I learned about their stories, and I learned about their hearts to serve those that are suffering and to bring justice to those that are often ignored or underserved, mistreated, and marginalized in our communities. And I really had a heart for that. And I wanted to ease the suffering of people. I've always felt blessed in my own life to have strong role models. I had a mother and father that were very strong and were very present in my life. So when you talk about the importance of fathers in the lives of girls, so important because they are the initial role models. They are the standards in which girls become aware and know of how we should be treated and respected. And I was lucky, I was blessed to have that sort of male role model in my life. So I'm glad that's one of your primary, initiatives or issues that you want to bring attention to, because a lot of the youth that are trafficked, they don't have fathers at home or they don't know their fathers. So it's real important that the community comes together to support fathers so they understand how important they are in their child's development and the important role they play in protecting their children from exploiters and perpetrators in the community. So I'm here to help be part of that solution and provide support to children, families, and communities impacted by child trafficking.
Thank you so much, Adela. You all have met me a couple of times, and I tend to get emotional, but I'm doing pretty good today. Not to break down and cry, but one of the things that stood out to me was when we had our first Zoom meeting together. I was in New York watching my 2 granddaughters, ages 13 and 6, right there in New York, and man, it was so powerful that to have that meeting, and I'm sitting there with my 2 granddaughters. My daughter and her husband had gone out of town, and I was nominated to take care of my 2 granddaughters, and that was an experience, but it was very rewarding. So, like you, I am blessed that my daughter and my granddaughters and my wife, we're blessed as a family. So when you said how blessed you are, I count it as a blessing as well. So Tina, oh wow, what you all do at Olive Crest. I'm so happy that the two of you partnered together. And I'd like you to tell the story about how you all came together and some of the funding that you've been awarded to really do this work.
Well, I'd love to share that. And yes, thank you to having us both here. I do want to chime in a little bit. I was thinking as Adela was sharing and you were sharing, I actually came from a different experience. My mother had me when she was 16 years old, and my father deployed to Vietnam at the same time. So y'all can do the math on my age right there. And he didn't come back the same way, and he died not that long after. So I didn't have a father figure in my life. And I was raised by a teenage mom. So when I came into this work, I came really with a heart for teen moms and youth right in that age. I've always said I love teenagers. And I came as a therapist, so I was really looking at healing. And as I, welcomed all ages into my practice, and I worked for the county mental health, so I was working with the same population. Your heart just keeps expanding. When I had my first child, I said, I can only love this child. And then when I had my second, my heart doubled in size. And I think that's the same way when working with this, with the children and families that we serve, that every time you meet someone and you hear their story, your heart grows, the capacity to love. And so as I was working with youth and partnering closely, even at that time with Children and Family Services, I was working with youth who were newly removed from their families and kind of figuring out what was going on. Why did they have to be removed? What was going to happen with them? And I'll never forget, I think she was about 14 at the time. And we were just sitting having a conversation. She was sharing with me, that she was glad she was removed with her family because she was able to be with her boyfriend now. And she's telling me all about her boyfriend. And then at some point she pulled out her cell phone, and this was 15 years ago, pulled out her cell phone and showed me a picture of a 40-year-old man. And at that point, exploitation became so real for me because I had that victim sitting right there with me. And we didn't get to even complete the interview before he was circling the parking lot of the Santa Fe Springs DCFS office and waiting for her to run out the door. And she did. She ran out the door to him. And there are so many times that I will start on a new project and the exploitation of children just keeps coming right back in front of me to the point where I can't ignore this. This is where I need to be. So when the state was really trying to help the counties figure out how to make an impact on the lives of these children, they said, everything we've been trying is failing. Youth keep getting back out there. They're not happy. We're not taking care of them the way they need to be taken care of. We need some innovation. And that's when I got excited because I don't want to keep repeating the same mistakes and having the same outcomes. I want us to really listen to the youth, listen to their families, and find out how we can do things different and better. And so luckily I was awarded the grant, or Olive Crest was awarded the grant that I wrote for. It is a significant investment by the state to see things done in an innovative and impactful way. And I knew that I needed to get right there with Adela because we have to join forces on this. The county and the state have the responsibility to care for these kids, but they need the community-based partners and the faith-based partners to rally alongside them because this problem is too big for just one of us. We all have to be here working together. So it's a great partnership. And I was saying earlier, I don't feel we can move fast enough. Every day we hear new stories of new children being victimized, but the hope that we have is with the state's backing, with the influence of all of our community partners and the faith partners, and thank you, Pastor Wright, for being one of those, we are going to make a difference in the way these kids get cared for now. Yeah.
So amazing. You said something, Tina, that just rang so true in my heart, and that is the capacity to love. I believe that when the church, and I'm saying this prophetically, when the church really gets to a place where they understand it's all these children need is love, and it's particularly the fathers. They need that fatherly love. And I do have a question, and is do you see some of the young ladies in particular that when the father is not there, and then a man like you said, 40 years old, there's some kind of connection, there's a void in those young ladies' lives, and this individual who's taking advantage of them, maybe they're seeking that fatherly love. It makes them more vulnerable. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely makes sense. And that's what the traffickers or exploiters, they prey on those type of vulnerabilities. So the referrals that we received through the Child Protection Hotline involve children between the ages of 9 to 17 years of age who have these vulnerabilities, such as not having a father present and involved in their lives. That's a very common dynamic that we see in those children that come to our attention. The families are often struggling with meeting their basic needs, whether that be housing or food. The exploiters know that they're looking to fill those needs somehow, some way. A lot of the children, youth, and families that we work with, dealing with poverty as well as other issues related to mental health struggles. There may be some domestic violence that makes the situation further complex. We see a lot of intergenerational trauma where the parents are struggling themselves just to be able to take care of not only themselves, but their family. So a lot of times the mother is not present in addition to the father not being present. The mother may not be emotionally present, and oftentimes the father is not physically present. So a lot of the kids also have shared vulnerabilities around feeling marginalized, misunderstood. They may have, it's not uncommon, about 80% of the kids that are trafficked had early referrals of child abuse and neglect early on, starting as early as 5. Many of our kids were sexually abused at an early age. So this created a greater vulnerability that the exploiters take advantage of, because our kids are looking for love and attention and validation. We have a lot of kids identify as being lesbian, gay, or transgender. And a lot of times they are kicked out of the homes and they're on the streets, and so exploiters are there to pay attention to them and to provide solutions like food and housing. But of course, that comes with a price. And as a result, our kids experience a great amount of trauma because of the violent nature of child trafficking. And so, the traffickers can be very psychologically manipulative, and they lead the child to believe that they're cared for and loved by the exploiter. They often will bring them gifts, buy them expensive purses, will offer to get their hair and nails done. And a lot of these children and youth haven't had access to that sort of, that sort of attention. And so youth are often very, become trapped in this relationship with the exploiter that's often much older than the children and youth. And so they clearly are able to dominate and control youth, including selling them for sex on the internet or on the street, on the Figueroa corridor, where we have the highest rates of child trafficking going on in the nation. So it is a huge problem that requires attention. And a lot of parents need to understand the vulnerabilities related to their children and youth being on social media. A lot of our referrals include kids that were groomed by exploiters on social media. We even have this story of because boys are trafficked too. We had this referral where a 12-year-old was on his it was a game app, and Roboblex, I think it's called. And so in these game apps, children and youth can go into a private room and talk to others that are playing the game. And so exploiters know where kids are on social media, and they will befriend, right? So an exploiter befriended this 12-year-old boy in one of the game apps, said, hey, let's go talk, in a separate chat room, befriended the child, then invited the child to go meet him so he can take him to McDonald's. So of course, a 12-year-old boy will pass that up, So sure enough, he met the exploiter at a bus stop. The exploiter took him and he was gone. So parents really need to know what their children are doing on social media, but they also need to talk about the threats, but also solutions to staying safe on social media, because that is a very popular platform where exploiters look for, recruit, and groom children. And the kids don't know who's on the other side of the screen, right? So that is another way that exploiters will trick our kids into these relationships.
That's so powerful. Just thinking about technology and media, social media now. So these exploiters are using every tool they can to recruit these young people. I want to ask, what can we do as a faith community to help partner with you all to, make an impact, make a positive impact?
I think there's so many ways that the faith community can really make a difference. And it starts with really recognizing people in your own congregation, in your own community who are struggling. And nobody wants to think it's going to be in their family. But just like Adela was saying, all of these vulnerabilities, a dad who can't be present because maybe he and the mother don't get along anymore. And maybe it's something simple. It's not as extreme as incarceration and addiction and all of those other things that keep fathers out of children's lives. Maybe it's just something as simple as divorce, which takes a child, takes a father out of a child's life on a daily basis. And then now the mother's trying to fill two roles. She's wearing the pants and she's, got the apron on at the same time. And we can't do everything alone. So recognizing who's struggling, and then outside of your congregation, who in your community is struggling, and how do we support them? When we have lack of resources, we can't feed our kids. We are working 2 or 3 jobs to try and keep the lights on and the roof over everyone's head. We're missing all of the signs that our kids are giving us, that they're lonely, that they don't feel loved, that they're never going to have anything in life. And that's another one. Exploiters will say, oh, no one's ever going to want you, but I do. And you're never going to succeed. You're never going to have a good job or a good car, but I can give you those things. And the reality for our kids proves a lot of that out. They're looking at their mom and their dad and they're saying, yeah, they're never going to help me get what I see on Instagram, help me get what I see on the TV. This person's going to help me get out of poverty and into all the luxury that we see in LA County and Southern California. Kids are faced with that all of the time, of the gap in income. And so then the faith community can continue to support those around them. But then the next step, I would say, is when families are really broken, they need time and space to heal. And the children need to be in a safe place while that's happening. So really, we absolutely rely on the community to open their doors and allow children to come stay with them, whether it's temporary through like a hosting program, which is an informal relationship, or more formal, like a foster parent relationship. We need kids to be someplace safe while their families get the help that they need. And a lot of people are willing to step forward and keep a baby safe or keep a 4-year-old safe. But when you talk about bringing a young person into your home that has been living on the streets, has been victimized, people get scared and they don't feel equipped. And I would say, lean into your faith. If you're called to do this, God's going to give you the strength to care for that child and give them the love they need. Just be brave and trust that your community will surround you and you will have what you need to give that kid love, even if it's for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months. It doesn't have to be an overwhelming commitment. And then just recognizing that housing is a huge issue in LA County and all of Southern California. So anytime that we can provide a young person with a place to live, we're helping keep them safe. They're not having to exchange sex for shelter, which so often happens, especially with our boys. That's a very common dynamic, that it's either sleep on the street where you're at risk of being robbed, beaten, raped, or exchange sex for shelter and at least have a choice about where you're staying. So open your homes and open your properties to even partnering with agencies like us. We're going to take care of them. We're going to give them mental health and substance use and case management, but we need homes for these youth to be in. So those are really the areas where we're reaching out and knowing that the faith community is the right place and the right partner. And the other thing I'll say is we want kids to be cared for in their own communities, where they feel that they belong. And if they don't know for sure that they belong, that the church convinces them that they belong.
Well, I really want to admonish the faith community. It's all about the capacity to love. 1 Corinthians 13 talks about it. Even if we can preach the mountains down, if we don't have love, we're just a sounding brass. So I want to admonish us, pastors, leaders, and also in the community-based organizations. It's about the love of these children that's what they're seeking. That's what they're seeking. And if anyone has love to give, I would believe it would be those who are followers of Jesus Christ. Why don't you share with the audience how they can get in contact with you to support what you're doing and partner as well?
Well, I think Olive Crest is an example of a community-based organization that we've really been able to stand in the space of partnering with our county and our state, and also partnering with the faith community, and really being that bridge between those two arenas. And DCFS does a great job in that with their Faith in Motion initiative, but Olive Crest also really leans into that space. We really believe that it's part of our role to help activate God's family and care for these children. And even those families that do step up and take a child, they need to be wrapped around by the rest of the congregation so that the load they're carrying is lighter. And so I would just say, I know I provided the link, but just reach out to olivecrest.org, or you can send me an email. You can email us, Adela, Estrada. You can call us at any time. One of the things about being in this work, Adela and I both know, this is 24/7 for us. It's our life's work. It's our passion. And, I think anyone who's got a minute and says we want to step up and help, one of us will be there to walk alongside and connect them to what they need to do.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm going to ask you to look at the QR codes at the bottom of the screen as well, where you can get plugged in with Tina and Adela. And I really want to just thank you all for being here. It is so much information that we can share, but I want to give each one of you the opportunity to share something that I may not have asked the question, but that's burning on your heart before we end our interview. Adela, what would you say is burning in your heart right now that maybe you haven't had a chance to share?
I just want to share that, when you have a lot of different research and studies going on around child development, right? They find consistently that each child needs one consistent, loving, and nurturing person in their lives. And so if a child doesn't have that, right? If they don't have that consistent, reliable, nurturing person that they trust in their life, exploiters are going to take that spot. So we need to be there more than the exploiters, because they're too quick to be there, right? And they will be there often. So we need mentors, right? Tina was saying that oftentimes we have mothers that are parenting and taking on a lot, and they need the support of mentors in the community. So if the faith community can mentor children, youth, and that is a way that they can support the family, that is incredibly helpful. I also want to really emphasize that building a relationship with their children and youth in a way that is open for children to talk about issues that are important to them. Having that open line of communication is so very important. Children need to feel safe enough to be able to talk about how they're being treated at school. They need to learn the signs of abusive behaviors. Churches can offer education information to their congregates around this. I would encourage people to go to visit knowtosayno.com. It's our LA County Human Trafficking website. It's just KNOWTOSAYNO, knowtosayno.com. And we have a lot of information there on prevention of child trafficking and what parents and community can do to support the effort to eradicate child trafficking in LA County.
And I would add, I really, and everyone's going to say, of course, enter this space without judgment. And it's harder to do than you think. A lot of people just can't understand how someone ends up in this situation, and because of their own discomfort, fear, wherever it comes from, it leads to our youth and our families feeling judged. And when you're feeling judged, you recede from help. You run from the help that you need to heal. And so really standing in that space that we are not here to judge. That's not we're just here to love. And it's hard to love people who've experienced so much trauma. They don't trust. So when we reach out a hand to say, we're here for you, they're suspicious of us. And if we say, oh, well, they reject us or we don't want them, that's about us. We just have to keep our hands out and say, no, we're really here in a truly genuine way to care about you and to give them time to come in. I like to use the image of feral cats. Whenever we know those feral cats are in our neighborhood, we put out that little can of food and we have to wait. We have to be patient. We have to give them time to trust us. And we can't know their story. We can't know all of the things in life that brought them to the place where they were able to exchange sex for safety. We don't know what led a person to that, and we're not in a place to judge it. I think that it's harder than people think, so continuing to get support from your pastor so that you can go, if you're helping someone in your congregation or you're letting a child come into your home, going back to your pastor and saying, this is hard. Please help me stay strong. Asking for that support is just really key to being successful in this. I've worked with so many families who step up and say, oh yes, I want to do something. And then as soon as it gets hard, they get scared and they run away. And those are the times to reach out to your pastor, reach out to your the others in your church and say, strengthen me and help me keep going. And then I would say, yes, just like Adela said, we provide trainings. Actually, it's a training on cybersecurity and human trafficking, and sort of that awareness specifically tailored for the faith community. So open your doors, host a training so that everyone becomes more aware of what this looks like. And the more we talk about it, the more we face the reality. This is happening to our children in our community. We can't hide. We got to step up and do something. And the more we talk about it, the easier it gets to face that truth. And then when we know the truth, we can do something.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you talked about cybersecurity and the training that you all are able to provide, as well as I believe you had talked about having a speakers bureau. And so myself and possibly my son, we're really interested in, Pastor Calvin Kressel and so many others are really chomping at the bit to collaborate with you and do all that we can. And we believe that, God's going to use technology like BeInspired Today podcast to get the word out and also be boots on the ground. So I want to say thank you both, Adela and Tina, for being our guest on BeInspired Today. I know I've been inspired to hold on to positive expectations, and I know those who are watching should be as well. Thank you. God loves you, and so do we.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Really a pleasure.
It's my pleasure, my honor. Thank you.